So maybe it's just me, but I personally feel like every product that we buy nowadays just is so generic and boring. Like recently, I needed a desk fan, and so like the good little consumer I am, I checked Amazon. And well, I wasn't sold on anything. Literally, I mean, I did not want to buy anything from them. Maybe to someone this is a nice looking fan, but to me, it just looks like crap. Cheap, get your fingerprints everywhere, black piano black plastic, and it just looks so generic, boring, and bare bones. And I'm sure the fans are very functional, but like, where's the style at? You know, why can't we have both? Look, I'll just say that capitalism and the relentless drive for profit has really killed our creativity, from the leisure products that we buy to the movies that we watch. But that requires a whole deep dive in and of itself, so for now, let's just build a cool fan. I really want to focus on the design and aesthetics for this project, so it's going to be very simple. And by simple, I mean I'm just going to be using a pre-made fan and making a case for it and the electronics. And yes, I could model my own fan and use a motor and, you know, get all that stuff, but that would require actual engineering, and I don't want to do that. Plus, I already spent a lot on electronics parts, and that's definitely not because I thought the tariffs were going to raise all the prices on AliExpress. Thanks, Orange Man. So here's all the components I'm using. A 5 to 12 volt 50mm fan, and you might be thinking that's really small, but this isn't exactly a fan that's going to be cooling me down. An 18650 battery and connectors, a USB-C charging board with battery protection, a step-up voltage converter. This fan runs at 5 to 12 volts, but our battery only has a rating of 3.7 volts, so we're going to need one of these. And lastly, this really cool switch. Yes, this switch is very impractical. It's made for 120 volts AC, and this is a 5 volt DC powered project. But again, I only care about the design and aesthetics, so I'm going to be using a cool switch, goddammit. So yeah, it's just 5 parts, super simple, but it's going to give me exactly what I need. And what I need is a mini fume extractor for my desk. So I do most of my work in a small desk in my garage, which sucks because, well, there's no ventilation in there, and when you're soldering and 3D printing, you're going to get a lot of fumes. So my original idea was to get a cheap fan off Amazon and then just buy some carbon filters as well and design a part for it to just attach onto there. But then again, everything on Amazon is just drop shipped to BS. And so here we are. And yes, I know this 50mm fan is not going to be the best at extracting any fumes, okay? But it's better than nothing I have right now, okay? I am losing a lot of brain cells. Alright, so using the parts, I got a rough layout of where I wanted everything to go. And using that layout, I went ahead and made a preliminary sketch about what I wanted the body to look like, and I came up with something like this. So usually precise engineering calls for you sketching it out beforehand and then moving into CAD. But I'll be honest, I have more of a creative workflow, so I just kind of like to get a rough idea of what I'm doing and then just hopping into CAD itself and building off from there. Yes, I started off with Blender if you wanted to know. One of the things I learned from my last project, the automatic treat dispenser, is that I need to start designing my 3D printed projects in parts. It makes it a lot easier when prototyping because you're able to make smaller changes a lot quicker. And I'm glad I did that because it took a few iterations to get all the part tolerances correct. And that's the downside of jumping into a design right away instead of getting everything fleshed out and sketched out beforehand. So once we got all the parts printed and we got our electronics, it's time for assembly. I wanted to make assembly somewhat easy, so you can start by doing some of the wiring first and then attach the main parts to the chassis using hot glue. With the parts attached, there's just a few more parts that are actually pretty difficult to solder, but I got it to work. Once everything is wired up, you just attach the front and back panels using M3 screws. And that's pretty much it. Again, it's a pretty simple fan, but I had a lot of fun designing it, and I learned a lot about the process of making electronics. So does this work well as a fume extractor though? Not really, but it does get most of the smoke out of my face, and that's better than nothing. So if you made it to this part of the video, thanks. I know this was another really short video and another short project. That's because I just want to start small and start ramping it up a bit so I can work on my skills. But thanks again for watching, and consider subscribing if you want to see more maker or 3D printing content in the future. Thanks.